What's up, guys? We're back with my series where we look at the best fighters in the world. I give you 5 things that they are exceptional at with training tips so you can become a little bit more like them in the gym. And today we are talking about Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I've had so many requests to cover him. Obviously, he is super exceptional because he does so many things differently by implementing his karate background. And this is something that I can break down for you, explain in detail, because before I won all the world titles behind me, I was a karate practitioner. I have a 4th degree black belt, and although it's been years and years since I've competed in point fighting, that kind of style where you bounce around and you flick things, it's still something that I spent over a decade doing. So I can break down his style for you in depth. Today we are talking about Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Alright guys, today we're looking at one of the most unique, one of the most interesting styles in the UFC. Not many people have a karate background and transition to MMA and continue using that karate style striking. So we're going to break down all the details of what he does and how you can utilize it, how you can drill these things yourself. Now keep in mind that karate has its benefits, but this is not the style that you want to try and adapt for yourself, your whole style, just like Wonderboy, unless you already have a background in karate. Or, maybe you try out something like a sidekick and you go, ooh, the sidekick, it just works for me. Then sure, add it in. But don't try and style yourself completely after him, because this is something that very few people can do, or at least effectively. There are many people who are great at karate. I used to be one of them. I was very, very good at it, all the fancy stuff. But then transitioning into something that is actually going to knock people out, that is very, very difficult. So let's start off, guys, and talk about Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's footwork. And I want to look in detail at this clip where he cuts the angle and lands the cross. Now, many people are so used in fighting to staying right in front of their opponent. They'll stay right across from them, they'll exchange shots. But because Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is so good already at moving forward and back, why not add in the sideways movement? And this is something that we were taught very young as karate practitioners, which has moved on to many other styles. We don't back straight up. We back up and we take an angle. And having that ability to cut angles, it's not an easy thing to do. Moving backwards is very easy, but moving backwards and cutting an angle is far more difficult. But if you're very good at it like he is, being able to stand here and quickly cut an angle is probably not that difficult. But the thing that he does really well here is he stays within punch range. A lot of times when people cut angles, let's say my opponent's right in front of me, and we make 2 arrows pointing out to the side. Most people, when they cut their angle, will move into one of these 2 directions. But my opponent, if he's right here, right within punch range, as soon as I move sideways, I've now moved completely out of range. So what you have to remember is that you move in a circle. I do not move from here straight out. I move out on an angle and I cut very slightly in. And that's what he does here, so that when he cuts off to the side, he's still within punch range. He's very, very fast at getting his feet under him, getting very balanced, so it's not push, pause, punch. It's standing here, he's moving around, and it's push, punch. Although I don't utilize this loads in my fights because kickboxing is a little bit different, I have used it many times in sparring because I always like to try out things I'm not great at and become better and better. And throughout the years, I've found this one to be very effective. Pushing sideways, landing the punch. Although I often go down to the body because I find as I cut the angle, their hands raise up, which leaves the torso exposed for the body cross. The key often on this one is to cut the angle. Remember, not right up to the side, but kind of on a rounded 45-degree angle to cut it as you throw a punch. If I can flick something out an angle, it's that much easier to blind my opponent. Or I tap them a couple times, I see their hands are up, they're fairly stiff through their legs, I cut the angle and I hit. And even if I don't knock them down, from here they have to adjust to face me, which gives me time to again cut the angle if I want, make it even harder for them to find me, or to hit and just exit. Now when they face towards me, I'm out of distance and I'm safe. We're trying very often when we're doing footwork not to put our weight through our heels. Putting our weight through our heels makes us very slow. When you see Wonderboy move, he's not heavy down here. I mean, this is when my heels are on the ground. He's up. He's on the balls of his feet. And if I'm bouncing, imagine if I'm skipping. I'm skipping away. Are the heels hitting the ground? Absolutely not. It's all through the balls of the feet. Same thing when I'm bouncing and I cut my angle, all through the balls of the feet. Be very mindful of that when you're cutting angles. Be mindful of taking that rounded corner so you're not moving in straight sideways lines. Cut my angles more, not that direction, but more like this direction. So now I'm still within punch range. All right, guys, point number 2, I want to talk about Steven's side kick. Now, the side kick does such a good job of maintaining range and keeping people at a distance. If they're out of range, he can use a little shuffle step to push them back. If he's back here and they run in, he simply shifts his weight over his back foot and uses the side kick defensively. If you are a kickboxing style striker or a Muay Thai style striker or somebody in MMA who's a little more traditional and you're going, oh, I want to incorporate the side kick, but it's just not working for me. Well, there's lots of reasons this can happen. Number one, maybe your chest is too square. It's very difficult to throw a side kick from here. When I lift, I might as well just throw a front kick. I have to lift and turn my body sideways to get my side kick going. The downside of that is it takes longer. If I'm already standing sideways, it's very easy to lift and snap. But if I'm standing here, I have to lift, turn, and then push out. Much slower. And if I stand this direction, I'm very, very susceptible to the low kicks, which is why many people don't do it. It works so well for Wonderboy because, like we said already, with his footwork, he's very mobile. He's very bouncy. If somebody goes to approach him or throw the low kick, he's fast on the exit. In terms of side kicks, the most important thing is being able to throw at this distance, this distance, this distance. I don't have one range which I need to be at. If I can throw from any of those and hurt this guy, it becomes very effective. As soon as I can't do that, not so effective. So what you should practice is right within punch range, lifting and kicking. Outside of punch range, again, now from here, I can either lift and jam them if they're running towards me, or I can do a big pivot and a little slide and still hit them. That's not a big adjustment. And if I'm way back here when he thinks he's safe and I'm out of range, I have two options. Option number one is to slide my back foot in as I lift my knee and to get myself within range, or I can cross step one foot behind the other and then get myself within range again for that side kick. And very often being super aware that my head does not want to be right here, especially if I miss the kick. I don't want to be coming forward with my head. I want to lean backwards to keep myself safe and out of range of any punches. This is just a basic technique that you want to be able to perfect to use it effectively. Something else we see Wonderboy do, which is very, very unique, is it's almost like a step through cross. He's out here, his hands are down, he comes in, he leans his weight way forward, and then he does a little step through after, and he cuts an angle off to the side. Taking that step, not just going right to here and coming right back out, that leaves you open for counters. But the reason his is so effective is because as he throws it and then steps, he cuts himself off on an angle where it's very difficult to counter. He throws that fast, explosive punch, he's out of the way. Even if it doesn't put anybody down, he's gone. And because he gets so much momentum into it, it's not just simply here and like that. He gets his whole weight behind it, his whole body weight falling forward. It becomes an extra hard punch. It doesn't really matter if technically there are some errors to it. It works for him. I've talked before about some attacks that cover a lot of distance. One of them was Floyd Mayweather style. When I throw my cross, I step through and I roll under, except in that instance, I'm dropping my head here and I'm rolling off to this side. But Wonderboy comes to the opposite side, stepping through. He almost gets his back leg on the outside of their leg, which for a second kind of puts him in an awkward position, but all he has to do is cut the angle or exit quickly, and then he's safe. Odd techniques like these, odd angles, sometimes leave you susceptible to counters, but for the most part, most of the time, because you're at such an odd position, if somebody tells me to knock somebody out over here, it's going to be very hard for me. If I go for the uppercut, feels odd. I don't have a lot of hip rotation, so there's not much power. If I go through the hook, I'm not powerful here at all. My shoulder feels like it's overstretching. Straight punch has nothing. And this arm is so far away that it's not going to have much power either. It involves me cutting an angle, centering my weight, and then going for a shot. But by that time, they're gone. Let's check out his footwork one more time. Really, really take a look at him stepping in, the angle he catches. If this is something you want to try and utilize, definitely do. But be very, very aware of all the details behind this footwork before you try and implement it. I love doing this with fighters, taking a look at their techniques that work for them, trying to copy them. If it works for me, great. If it doesn't, I toss it away and I never use it again. Now, as we said at the beginning of the episode, Wonderboy has many, many elements of his karate style that he's able to utilize in MMA. And one of the things he does very well with his counters is he almost does it karate style. It's very, very quick. When we used to do point fighting, or I used to do point fighting, and people would come in and let's say they flick something at you, you block, and because you're not worried about power shots or trying to get any power, you don't have to worry about twisting your body and the whole mechanics of everything, which just slows things down by a tad. It's just more block, touch, as opposed to if I wanted to actually get some power here, I'd have to go block and get a little bit more thump behind my arm. 1, 2. And he is still able to utilize his counters with that explosive speed that would normally not have the power behind them. But again, he is able to hurt people with those counters. And a number of times I've talked about what equals power. Is it the force going through? I say no, it's the speed and the follow through. If I can get this fastest little flick, fastest like a Bruce Lee style, like a pow, just choom, choom. If I can get that, but instead of stopping here, I aim through. And now I can keep my arm still, fairly relaxed. As soon as I squeeze my fist tight, it's going to slow me down. So I'm just nice and relaxed. And instead of touching there, I just aim through a little bit. I try not to squeeze my muscles because again, that's going to slow me down. So I tap, I aim through. This is a great style of training that you can implement. In fact, let me show you a drill here. What you can do is you can pick up something, maybe not, this is my notebook, by the way, of all the episodes that I film. See, I don't need this piece of paper. Nope. All right. So what you can do is you can take a piece of paper. If my partner's standing right here, I just take this and I'll hold it up. And I'll hold it for them. And what they're going to try and do is punch this piece of paper so hard, so fast, but not aiming through, just aiming to it, that they can rip the paper, just rip it apart. And I've seen boxers, high-level boxers within my province, utilize drills like this, except they weren't using paper, they were using some other material, but it'll still work with this. It's just that raw speed, as fast as you can, hit, aim through maybe 3 inches, and pull it back. If I'm doing something like that, well, this is here, it's not ideal holding for myself because I can't get my full body rotation at all, but if I'm holding for myself here, and I'm just doing something like that, it's definitely going to help me increase my punch speed, increase that power. And then what I can do, if I want to get good at counters, like Steven Wonderboy Thompson, I could have somebody hold this, they have a noodle in their other hand, and they swing it at me, and as soon as I block, I counter, or I block on the other side, and then I counter. And I just drill like that, getting that raw speed down, trying to literally rip this paper or this page in half. And guys, before we get to our last point, if you are enjoying the video, please give it a like. That helps the channel, helps the video, boost it up so much. Of course, get subscribed, and let's move on to our 5th and final point. And we're talking about Wonderboy's karate style springing attacks. When I used to point fight, one of the things that we did all the time was away from out here. Everybody had their different fighting style. I wasn't somebody who kept my hands way down here. I think it's been a while. I think my style was just more like this. I just have my hands in that position so I could still block. But a lot of the guys would just be like this. They'd literally swing their arms like that, and they were just looking for that moment where they saw the head open so they could jump in and spring through. Or they'd fake up high and just and land those little shots like that. Wonderboy has sort of kept those around. He does spring in explosively, but the good thing he does is he does not jump in and stop. He exits very quickly. And the speed at which he moves forward is fantastic. Now, you don't need to stand in a side stance and bounce with your hands down to utilize this. You can just change to this style. Just to here, moving around, I'm on my feet, and then if I want to spring in, I just make sure that my hand stays tight, my head level does not change. I'm not a rabbit jumping up in the air and coming back down. I'm simply moving in. And that's why those karate guys were so fast. They'd go straight to their opponent and then throw their technique. So I'm out here, I'm bouncing around, I want to get there as quick as I can. I hit and I exit. I come off to the other side, maybe I do that step through that we talked about before. I hit and I exit. And you're remembering that if you're somebody who has a substantial amount of speed in your footwork or your hands, with single shots, that you're going to take advantage of that. If you find that when you're in the gym, you're moving around, you can just touch people. You're standing there, you can spring in and touch them. Maybe you don't need to stand in here and bang and get counter shots thrown at you the way that I do. I like to come and move in and let my hands go, but I run the risk there of getting countered. It's very hard for somebody to counter you when you're out here and you're just like bam, and then you're back again. If you're trying to get better at explosive movement, what you want to do first is understand range. I don't want to do it from here. I'm already within range. I don't want to really do it from here either. I want to be more of this distance where I'm out of range of my kicks. I take something, ideally something that's flat, but I'm just going to use this for the moment, and I just place it down on the ground. And I know that I do not get to cross that line. So instead of starting up here, past my notepad, I have to start back here. And I bounce around, and then when I'm ready and I'm moving, I can quickly spring in and get right back out. That's the type of drilling Wonderboy would be doing to get down that explosive in and out motion. And of course, guys, the easiest way to practice getting more similar to somebody is to watch them over and over and over, and then get in the gym and actually try to do the same techniques they do. But don't get discouraged if they don't work for you. This is a very unique style. As I already mentioned, you might not find that each of the points I gave you today are something that you want to actually add into your own game. If you find one thing that works, add it in. If the other four don't, throw them away. At least you got to try them out and you have a better understanding of how they're working and what you can do to defend them if you ever fight somebody else who's got that Wonderboy karate style. So guys, that's all for me today. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you have not already, get subscribed. Train hard, guys, and I'll see you back here soon for another video.